Welcome to North Chapel. My name is Maryann Postans, and I'm the service coordinator today. Announcements. Our minister, Dr. Dunkley, will be giving the reflection today. There are a lot of things going on at North Chapel each week, so check it out. There's a membership invitation so you can vote. There's an annual meeting next week, coffee hour after the service. It's downstairs. So please take your time to read your order of service. Also, check out the announcement on the pledge edge. It's in there. Take a look. Childcare today will be sponsored by Victoria Lester, who's down here in the maroon hat. If you are visiting today, we'd love to have you sign the guest book at the back of the church, and there are also hearing devices back there. Also, please take the time to turn off your cell phones. When I was in my first year of teaching at a small alternative school in Santa Fe, New Mexico, I had a student who I remember as having shoulder-length blonde hair, maybe 7th grade, but I can't remember his name. One day, he used the F word in my classroom, and when I asked him not to use that word, he claimed freedom of speech. It is with this memory in mind that I read the following quotes about freedom, which is January's theme. The first quote is by Søren Kierkegaard. Quote, "People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought which they seldom use," unquote. The next quote is by Viktor E. Frankl. Quote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom," unquote. We will now have a moment of silence.
I want to ask you all to be kind. It's his first reflection. The key to generosity is learning how to live abundantly. What was the quote, your second quote, Maryann, about that moment between our moment of choice, that sort of brief instant between the inspiration or the provocation and then our action, the action and then our reaction. That tiny little half a second is a moment of choice. And we can forget how luxurious it is. And we start to live in a constrained way. But I want to encourage us to live abundantly and explore that moment, that infinitely long half a second when you get to make a choice. I know. On cue, I squeezed it. No, I'm just kidding. My dad and I painted the inside of our house in New Jersey where I grew up. We painted, there was one blue wall and holding a beautiful painting that was done by a relative of ours, of my sister and I, in a big block house. But we painted every other wall than that, listening to one James Taylor album on repeat. There was one song that wasn't on that album that I'm inspired to share with you today for two reasons. It begins with the words, it says, "Moving in silent desperation and keeping an eye on the Holy Land. A hypothetical destination, well, who is this walking man?" So I was inspired by words earlier today about the monks who were on the walk. That's another James Taylor song that ends with a line where he says, "Would he have wings to fly? Would he be free?" Like, if we had those wings to fly, would we be free? Tomorrow marks the 7th anniversary of my father's passing. So the entrance of this little guy in my life kind of is connected to that in some brave way. My dad had a dog too. That dog's name was Dusty. Dusty became the name of my cat that I shared with Chloe Powell. It was Chloe's cat. She became allergic to her own cat, and I adopted her cat, and then I gave that cat the name Dusty, not predicting that I would soon have this guy. So I kind of wish I hadn't delivered that name to Dusty, but it is. So I'm still wondering what this name will be. I have a name in mind, but I have to ask him if it's okay for a little while. So anyway, thank you, Dad. Beautiful man. Good morning. I have a very short story to get us started. It's a short story, but it's a real story. It actually happened to me. It took place in a coffee shop near Boston. I was tickled at how this story unfolded. The title of this very short story is "Nearly in the Spirit of Linoleum." Nearly in the Spirit of Linoleum. There was a group of friends having some fun in a neighborhood coffee shop. There were about 5 of them or so gathered by a table in the back. You can turn the pages if you want to. They were gathered in the back. I was working on my computer. I wasn't consciously aware of them. I knew they were there, but I was trying to ignore them so I could concentrate on my work. They were having way more fun than I was. So their joy would become a distraction if I couldn't tune them out. But I tried as best I could, but I couldn't do it. I tried to put up a barrier between me and them. I tried to put up a firewall, a sort of sonic firewall to keep their conversations out of my head. And I succeeded for the most part, but there was one word that kept piercing through my defenses. That one word, strangely enough, was linoleum. All of these words, of all the words you can hear 25 times in the space of just a few minutes, I was surprised at how frequently I was hearing linoleum, linoleum, linoleum. I was wondering, why were they so passionate about linoleum? I couldn't figure it out. That group of friends, those folks in the coffee shop, they just kept talking and talking about linoleum. It continued, it kept going. Why they were so passionate about linoleum, I couldn't know. All of this was unfolding beneath the surface of my conscious attention. At one point, I was so distracted that I wasn't getting any work done at all, so I let myself listen a little bit more closely. And then I realized that I had made a mistake. They were not talking about linoleum. They were speaking to a rebellious 5-year-old child whose name was Liam. They were speaking to him, and they wanted him to not go into the kitchen, which was off limits. They were speaking to Liam, who wanted to go into the bathroom, which happened to be occupied at the time. They were wanting Liam to discourage Liam from going into the back storage room where no one was allowed to go. He was a precocious kid. And for all of these valiant efforts, the rebel child received the same admonishment with increasing intensity. No, Liam. No, Liam. No, Liam. My distracted ears hearing something that no one was actually saying. My distracted mind created a whole story that was going on inside of them. an increasingly passionate story about linoleum. So I laughed at myself and I tried to get back to work, and I found myself more interested in thinking about that group of friends and how they had gathered around a child. Yeah. I know. They had gathered around this young Liam, this 5-year-old, to be his friend, to watch him grow in life. I'm thinking a lot about that now, for obvious reasons. I thought about how special it is to have a community like that. I thought about how little kids like Liam offer a world a sense of hope, especially in difficult times. To the adults who gathered around them, he offers a sense of hope. To the people who look on at a distance like me, he offers a sense of hope. And to the people he will encounter as he grows in life, Liam offers a sense of hope. What a lovely olive branch he is. What an instiller of hope he is. So I have a dog. I have a dog who's impossibly adorable, and I hope to gather around him a community of caring people who would like to be his friend and watch him grow in life. I am not capable right now of talking about what this little one means to me, as cute as he is, as cute as he can be. So cute that it doesn't seem real when I look at him. I know. We don't know each other yet. But I still feel closely connected to him. I can't explain what this means just yet. I picked him up at 6:15 last night, and I've been holding him ever since, watching what a miracle he is, wondering how what he'll grow up to be. I pray that I get to witness his growth, his development. He is the symbol of something that is very deep in me and very important, something that goes back many years. He is the embodiment of a sacred hope and possibility. If you ever feel like you're losing hope, if you ever feel like you're alone in the world, I want you to think about linoleum. I want you to think about the 5-year-old kid who gathered around him a circle of adults who were interested in being his friend and watching him grow. I want you to think about Noah's dove. If I had wings like Noah's dove, I'd fly the river to the one I love. Fare thee well, my honey, fare thee well. These are the words of an old traditional folk song called Fare Thee Well. I had a man, strong and tall. He moved his body like a cannonball. Fare thee well, my honey, fare thee well. I remember one evening in the pouring rain, in my heart was an aching pain. Fare thee well, my honey, fare thee well. This is a biblical reference, these pouring rains. These are the pouring biblical rains that are associated with the story of Noah. There's another reference in the song, in the last verse, that is also biblical. It talks about the bird that flies high above. The song talks about Noah's dove. Noah's dove is a great instiller of hope. Do you remember how the story unfolds in the Bible? You don't remember. It must have felt so strange for Noah way back in the day, getting crazy messages from God about building a fabulous ark and gathering the animals two by two. He may not fully have appreciated what he was doing at the time, not until the rains came down. That must have been devastating. The floodwaters, so great that they swallowed all of the land of the earth. Devastating. That's a big flood. I know it's a scary flood. To be adrift in such waters with no land in sight. What an experience. I can see how it creates a sense of hope, an experience like that, to be so far from dry land. I can see how it primes us. I can see how it primes in us a real and deep need for faith. We tell this story in prose and we sing it in poetry. Way back in the Bible days, Noah told the people that it's gonna rain. And when he told them, they paid him no mind. And when the rains came, they were left behind. It's gonna rain. It's gonna rain, so you better get ready. And bear this in mind. God showed Noah the rainbow sign. He said, no more water, but fire next time. After the rains began to pour, they knocked on the windows and they knocked on the doors, and people didn't know exactly what to do, and you don't want this to happen to you. It's going to rain. Noah said, I'm sorry, my friend, but God's got the key, and you can't get in. So sorry. He said, if something don't happen to the very hearts of men, don't you know that the same thing is going to happen again? Way back in the Bible days, the hearts of men had grown hard, had grown cold, not so unlike they are today. Back then, the hearts of men had grown bitter, not unlike today. In some ways, not much has changed. Those guys took themselves so seriously. They took themselves so seriously that they missed the point of laughter. They were missing the point of life, and God didn't like that. So God sent the rains to swallow the hardness and to swallow the bitterness, and God chose Noah to survive what God has done. And there Noah was, adrift on the waters the size of the whole wide world, not knowing what would unfold into the future. Bless you. And into that feeling of helplessness, Noah poured his hope. Into those feelings of surrender, Noah poured his heart like honey, hoping against the odds and against the grain for a positive sign to lead him on. He sent a dove over the waters, hoping for hope itself. And the dove came back to him carrying a branch in its talons. Yes, there were signs of land out there after all. What a feeling must have preceded that moment, to be adrift on an endless sea, to be directionless, to be helpless and at sea, and then to see the dove return with the olive branch, a clear sign of hope. We have to surrender to the olive branch. We have to surrender to hope again and again. Hope is a heroic energy that never gives up on itself, that never gives up on us, that never gives up. Hope is what calls us into community. We gather together in a gesture of hope. We gather together in hope because it's cold outside, because the news is hard these days, and the level of violence in the world is so extreme. It's like a flood that has stranded us all at sea. Signs of hope can be few and far between. Hard as they are to find, they are out there. There's a great movie, it's called Hero. It's by a Chinese filmmaker. I don't know if you've seen it. It's subtitled. But in it, there are people who are practicing calligraphy in an old thatch roof hut in the hillside. And approaching them is an army of thousands loaded with bows and arrows. Okay? And they're firing the bows and arrows indiscriminately, and they're flying through the air in a big wave, and they're piercing through the thatched roof. And the people who are studying calligraphy are in danger. One person gets struck with one of those arrows and rolls over in pain. And the people start to get up from their tables, from their easels, and start to run to find better safety. And the teacher says, wait. Don't give up on what you're doing. Continue to practice your art. Don't let yourself be overcome by fear. And they sit back down, and then they keep doing their calligraphy. So in a way right now, I wonder if the rains are so great that they encourage us to run from the room and stop practicing our art, which is our joy, which is our generosity, which is our abundance. The best way for the others to win is by helping them do it. So the best way to resist, the best way to respond to the sorrows that we see is by holding on to our joy, by cleaving to it. I'm going to end with a very short story about a guy named Todd. Todd is a fellow minister of mine, but he's also been defellowshipped. His name is Todd Eckloff. He was thrown out of the ministers' club. He was thrown out because he wrote a book that was offensive to many people and because he didn't talk about it. There are real reasons why he got chucked out. But for a faith that asks us for our all, asks us for everything we can give. It's not enough to just keep him in the group and tolerate it. It is enough to expand our hearts enough to understand why he is so different than we are. So I wonder what we'll do. I'm going to take a trip in the next 6 months. He's in Spokane, Washington. I'm going to go fly to see him after I speak to some of the people who made sure that he didn't stay a minister, who kicked him out, and see if there's some way to resolve these tensions. Todd wrote a book called The Gadfly Papers about a hiring decision that seemed racist to some people. And it caused a huge commotion in the UUA back in 2017. Does anybody remember that, when the president of the UUA resigned under, I can see David shaking. So the president of the UUA was named Peter Morales. He was in an 8-year term, I believe. And 3 months before the completion of his term, a crisis happened that caused him to resign. It caused a lot of pain. But Todd was at the center of that. And we have a chance to heal ourselves from that. We have a chance to do better than we have before. But we're going to have to soften our bellies and walk towards the things that scare us. So when it looks hopeless outside, when it looks like nothing outside, when the floodwaters are so great, if you want the job, you're going to have to work on your typing. When it looks like the floodwaters are so great, remember to keep yourself supple. Remember to keep yourself open, even to that with which you disagree. There's an aching, broken man in Minnesota who killed a woman. And if we can tell that story, I have a feeling that the violence will go down. I have a feeling that Carolyn Levitt will have nothing to talk about if we figure out how to do the spiritual work that is before us. If we harden and pick sides, even though the sides are so vulgar right now, it's so vulgar. But if we soften and find a way to stay true to our deepest heart, we can get through this. For the deepest defenders of our deepest faith, for those who protect the most precious things and the dearest things we know, for those who encourage our hope in a time of hopelessness, may we find a new life, a new spirit, a new vitality that guides us courageously and gently through these next few days, through these next 3 weeks, through these next few months. Keep afresh before us the moments of our high resolve. May be so. Blessed be, and amen.